What is up, you guys? We're here for our midweek alchemy message. Our alchemy message is when we take a look at the weekly spiritual assignments and we sort of unpack the process and our approach to the work. So from the wild unknown, for the wild unknown alchemy deck. Sorry, I'm tired. We've got Soulless Splendor or Sun's Splendor, which I feel like we had last week. We have Mortification, which we also had. If we didn't have this one last week, we definitely had Mortification last week because we had two death cards. We had a death card out of the archetypes and then this Mortification card. And then we have this repeat pattern. Yesterday we had Monday's anchor message. We had the death card out of the tarot. And now again, we've got our Wednesday message that's underscoring that death theme with mortification. So we've got the Sun's Splendor, Mortification, and Rotation or Rotatio. Rotatio. Underneath the Sun's Splendor, we've got the World. Underneath Mortification, we have 10 of Pentacles. And underneath Rotation, we've got King of Pentacles. So as usual, lots and lots of layers. So I'm going to start with the Sun's Splendor. So I think this is the first couple of days within the entire first half of the year. It feels like 6 months. January was 10 years. So yeah, I think this is the first moment where as a collective, we're starting to just catch our breath a little bit. Everything, all of the impending doom is still there, but I think that we are all just adjusting and able to kind of get our bearings and our wherewithal. And it's helping too that a lot of the planets are starting to move direct that have been making us feel so frustrated, or at least a couple of them anyway, that make a lot of difference. Jupiter went direct the other day, maybe in Aquarius. I can't remember what sign Jupiter entered. And we have Venus going direct into Aries. So that right there is going to give us a lot more fire and optimism and energy and lightheartedness and a feeling of getting our fun back, getting our personality back, getting our playfulness back. And I think that it's so important that we do keep our playfulness. And it's funny, I've been talking about this a lot and I keep seeing it too repeated with different, people are putting up quotes and reels from all these sages, and I keep hearing people talking about the importance of joy, the importance of play, and the importance of keeping that. Because you disconnect from your experience with life if you have no play. The universe is always playing with us, and when we're in a playful state, it's like we're open to life. Think about it, when you're feeling salty, you're so closed off. You're like, I don't want to joke around, I don't want to talk to anybody, don't bother me, don't look at me, don't give me a compliment, don't just leave me alone, and you shut everything out, you shut life out. But when you're playing, you're open, you're receiving, you're giving it and you're taking it, and you're having a good time, and the universe is having a good time with you back. So the Sun's Splendor card is really that summer vibe of feeling vitality and renewal and excitement and wanting to get out and be active and take action and be adventurous. So yeah, and then the Aries, Venus moving into Aries is going to make us feel like a little frisky again, right? It's hard to feel turned on with life and flirtatious when you are in the depths of despair and an absolute terror, right? But I think we're starting to feel that influence kind of coming back over us again. And this can make us feel extra emboldened to sort of shoot our shot or, put it out there, do a little flirting, make our move, if you will. It can get people feeling a little bit more crushy or impulsive with their decisions. So don't rush out and make any long-lasting choices too fast. But at the same time, kind of like let yourself get ramped up with this flirtatious energy. And I mean, how awesome that it comes right in time for we're getting ready for Valentine's Day, right? Isn't that funny? So you'll enjoy that. I think that we're feeling like that motivation to beautify our environment. I know for so many people, myself included, especially if you're from the millennial age, but we have a tendency to think about, bathing suit season is right around the corner, so some people are getting into their workout routines and they're doing makeovers and feeling good about themselves. But when Venus goes direct, that is a good time to finally get that haircut that you've been meaning to have. When Venus is in retrograde, it's just it's hard to look your best. I always forget about that too. Whenever I'm like, am I ever going to look good again? And then suddenly I realize that Venus has been in retrograde. I'm like, oh, that explains it. You just don't, it's like, can't have a good hair day. Nothing cooperates. You feel like a stain on your shirt. So we're moving into Aries, so it's going to be a lot more flirtatious. Aries is fiery, Aries is bold, Aries is very sexy and flirtatious, and they're very passionate. Well, Venus is all about romance and beauty and love and partnership, right? So you get those two together and you've got fiery love, willing to put, their heart on the line, willing to, take it the distance. So good energy in the air, generally speaking, as far as that goes. So yes, there is this renewal of energy and we are turning into this new age of Aquarius. We've left the age of Pisces, and I feel like this happened a while back, but it's now we're kicking over into gear. You can really tell the age of Aquarius is upon us. This is happening. And I think that we got a real push of that when Pluto moved into Aquarius and then really settled in. It was at the beginning of the year, boom, January hits and we're in the age of Aquarius. Everything's crazy. Everything's upside down. Everything's whack. There's aliens, there's robots. It's all happening now. Every action movie we have ever seen, we are living in this moment. It's so insane. So in many ways, it can feel like it's the end of the world, right? But there is an apocalypse at the end of every age and at the end of every human cycle. We've got this rotatio here, and it reminds us that we are cyclical. This is a cyclical world. Things happen in seasons and nothing is the same forever, right? So if you feel like you're in bleak circumstances, just know that it's not going to stay like that forever. Keep your energy motivated. Keep making an effort. It will finally change. Change comes always. You can always guarantee that change comes. So, again, leaders come and go, right? We are here for seasons. It's not permanent. So don't get boxed in when you are overwhelmed with all of these things happening, right? We've been talking about that. There's so much coming at us that it's very easy to get into a trauma response and freeze up. And okay, so y'all know I've been talking about this for the last week. What you know about your girl Marianne Williamson getting on the computer today and telling the world the same thing? So, you heard it here first, folks, that we are in the midst of basically a strategy of trying to throw so much change, so many huge curveballs, so much overwhelming news, things being disclosed, things that are distracting us, everything, prioritizing. What do we prioritize? What do we pay attention to? Oh yeah, I've got the utilities are late because I've been in a haze of just like, what is going on, right? In the movies, everybody's just like stacked up in the, everybody's over at each other's houses. They're all stacked up around the TV. They're all watching, like eyes peeled. What do we do? Is it time to evacuate the world? Like, what are we gonna, we have to still go to work. We still have bills coming in. We still have to pay the rent, right? It never stops. So it's like, it's not like it is in the movies. We just kind of have to go about our business in the middle of what feels like an apocalypse, right? Is this the apocalypse? We don't know. Is it a apocalypse? We're pretty sure, right? So even though it does feel like the end of the world, it will yield something on the other side of it. And I'm not saying that what is happening now is the good change. What I'm saying is that usually before good change happens, all of the muck and the stuff that is imbalanced and that needs to be corrected and purged and healed and refined and corrected, all of that stuff has to come out and into the surface to be able to see it. And then it's finally dealt with. It's like all of these things that we're seeing that right now that feel like these new events that are happening, all of it has already been there, right? It's just that now it's been disclosed. Now we are being, like, the things are being revealed. And so nothing has really changed except our awareness of what has already been in existence. So I think that is one way to initially find a little bit of peace inside. Okay, it's not that these threats or these seeming threats haven't already been there all along. I just haven't known. Now we know, right? Very unpleasant, very scary, very inconvenient, very uncomfortable. But now we know it needs to be dealt with, just like in our own inner work, right? When someone triggers us and we have all of these messy, undesirable feelings coming up and all of these messy, chaotic thoughts and all of this and these mindsets and it just starts popping off. That happens so that we can see what needs to heal and change and be evolved within us, right? And so the same happens like on our internal world as it does in our external world. So we're in this moment right now where we are moving towards a better future, hopefully, one that is inclusive and united, and one that hopefully has an entire global family, and not people pitted against one another, right? But what we have to do is that it has to get so bad that we have to hit rock bottom on a personal level before we change, right? Same thing. So too, with the world is I hope this is rock bottom. I hope it doesn't get worse. I guess it can. It can get worse, I'm sure. But let's hope we don't have to take it that far, right? Maybe we can, as a collective humankind, awaken enough to shift and tilt the scales, the cosmic scales of light and dark. Hopefully we can influence those scales to bring on that harmony and that peace and that fulfillment before it gets absolutely dark, right? But the only thing that's going to bring the end of pain and death and suffering in the world is the Messiah, right? The return of the Messiah, the Redeemer. But until then, we're always sort of in this battle of humankind of like trying to keep those scales in check, right? And it's up to us as a collective to make the right choices and to steer the direction of humanity and the earth in the right direction. We looking around right now. How do you feel about things? not looking too good. But there are a lot of really wonderful souls out in the world. Lots of light out there. Lots of brilliant hearts and minds and spirits that want good things and want to share and want to be good and want to do good and want to add good. It's just that there's also a lot of really loud darkness out there that is louder and more aggressive than the peace and the harmony, right? But when that peace and harmony gets triggered, all of the people together, that adds power that doesn't need that kind of loud obnoxiousness, right? And that kind of power, that internal shift in consciousness, it's like the 100th monkey effect. Or have you guys ever heard of, like, I think it's called, is it the same thing as the Maharishi effect? I might be using the wrong term. But there's this phenomenon when they teach, they've tested this with monkeys, that they will teach a group of monkeys a new skill. And the rest of the troop doesn't know the skill until they get to the 100th monkey. And once they teach the 100th monkey, the rest of the tribe, it's like the troop, they all of a sudden, like, genetically or like telepathically, like, they all know how to do the thing. Like, it's just like understood. It's just this switch that gets turned on. A similar thing happens too when we gather in groups and we meditate. It can lower the crime rate in certain cities, like when people have grouped together to do these like big group meditations and test it out. So we as a collective have an impact, and hopefully there are more people being awakened right now. I think it's a thin margin, but I think that, you know, when you look at the whole world right now, it's not really a thin margin. It's just that what we're seeing makes it seem that way. So take heart, be heartened, even though it feels like the end of the world. It's not, it is and it isn't. It's the end of the old world as we knew it, right? And it is the beginning of a world that has not really fully come into form and into being yet. And we are not who we were. And we're also not quite yet what we will be and what we're becoming. But we're in this transitional sort of puberty, if you will, where we're changing and we're becoming. Now, we've talked on this channel every once in a while about tikkun, which is the correction of the soul. Every person that is born into this physical world is given a soul. And that soul it's been with you through several lifetimes. And you've come here with that soul to correct the assignments that have been attached to that soul. Now, when we come to this earth, like we were talking about that scale of good and evil and light and dark back there, we're given this density, each of us, as rent for being here on earth. This is like our purpose. And that density is the darkness in the world. It's the negativity. And so we've got those things installed. Here's a little anger, here's a little guilt, here's a little shame, here's a little bit of body issues, image issues, here's some lust. You know, we get divvied it out. We have to deal with these things. And so those like contracts, those soul contracts we have with people, we're supposed to have certain people in our life that come in exactly to be the antagonizers or to be the protagonists. And the big major players, the key players, are parents, siblings, major friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, bullies, that kind of thing is all predetermined. It is in a soul contract where we're working together in this training simulation theater to work and correct our tikkun, right? So that is why we are here. Now, what was I was getting at about this, the tikkun healing, the tikkun correction. Oh, yes. Okay, so the Torah. There is a unique energetic signature attached to every day of the year. And so each individual is supposed to, it's possible for an individual to complete their tikkun in one lifetime, because each day of the year has its own individual unique energy that presents those particular challenges and opportunities for that day, that if you take full advantage of them, you can correct your tikkun according to that, the offerings of that day's challenges and opportunities. So theoretically, a person could correct their entire tikkun within a 365-day cycle. Each day in that 365-day cycle has a corresponding piece of Torah that is read on that day in the same order every year, that is meant to support you and guide you and give you direction through those opportunities and challenges for that day. So there's like a built-in owner's manual, instruction manual. It's like for each day of the year, which is amazing. Now, today, and then like this recent portion we've been in recently, we are in the time where the Israelites are making their exodus from Egypt. And at this point in the portions of the Torah, we are walking into the Red Sea. And so yesterday's energy was actually doing the action of walking in and taking that act of faith, not knowing what's going to happen, and getting in up past our nose, up so deep that we don't know if there's any way back. There's no way back. It's certain death. Got to go forward. And so that act of faith is what finally split the waters. Otherwise, they were up to here before the waters split. It wasn't like split the water and then walk in. It was like, we have nowhere to go. We believe this has got to happen. This is the only plan that we have. We're in unison. We're all going to believe. We're just going to do this. And they walked in until they were up to here. And then that's when the water split. As they made their passage and the Egyptian army followed behind, the waters folded in on them. So the Israelites were protected, right? But the water swallowed the enemy, swallowed the opponent, swallowed the Egyptians. So in today's portion, we are in that passage through the water, through the tunnel of water. And what that rite of passage is us leaving behind the bondage and the slavery and the addiction and the darkness and those limiting thoughts and old behavioral patterns and all the old stories, all the old timeline that kept us small, that kept us limited, that kept us in that old, smaller ego self. I mean, think about ourselves a couple of years ago, how much we've changed, right? So we are leaving Egypt and we're going through this rite of passage, this tunnel, this passageway that is sort of cleansing away who we once were and helping us to transition into the new self that we are becoming, that higher self, walking into this new timeline, this new world, this new life. And I mean, I knew that we were going to be building a new story and a new life, but I did not know that this timeline that we were jumping on was going to be going from normal movie to sci-fi poli-science, like political sci-fi thriller, comedy, dark comedy. I don't know. Let's hope there's some romance added in. Terror, horror movie, like everything. It is suspenseful. It's so crazy right now. Aliens, action movie. We're like in a Michael Bay, like Steven Spielberg, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, RoboCop. Like, I mean, all the movies right now. We are basically living in all of them. It's nuts. So yes, it feels like the end of the world, and it is kind of, but it's also the beginning of a new world. We're just not in that newness yet. And this transition is probably going to be happening over the next few years. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty and a lot of uncomfortable moments. And we just have to keep ourselves regulated and spiritually uplifted and nurtured. And we need to Instead of isolating, we need to pull together. What do narcissists like for you to do, to become? They like to isolate you. They like to keep you away from your friends and family so that they have total influence over you, right? So we need to be amongst the people that care about us. And it wouldn't hurt to be around people who have different backgrounds and belief systems so that, you're not just in a complete bubble, right? Because if everybody sections off into their bubbles, like we all have family members that don't have the same beliefs. We all have that one kind of friend on the fringe that's like, doesn't have the same whatever. But we can't alienate one another. We have to find a way to come back together. And there are people on all sides that feel this way, that are caught up in the crossfire of it all. So the ones of us that are in a spiritual practice, the ones of us that are trying to be conscious people, it's going to be up to us to be those bridges and those ambassadors. And it's not an easy job for sure. And evangelizing at someone really never changes their mind. It's really hard to change someone's mind. But if you share love, genuine moments of kindness and authenticity, that can change someone's heart. So we've come all this way. The world card here, it's like this cycle of lessons and growth and awakening and education and experience has led us all up to this moment. We've arrived prepared for our purpose, and now it's showtime. So this is not a dress rehearsal. Curtains up. So it's cray. Now we're seeing the death of what is not sustainable, what has decayed, what has dilapidated, what has no more longevity, right? What cannot stand. We're seeing the death of so many things. We're seeing the death of our innocence, of our nostalgia, of simpler times, of times when, my God, if we get flying cars, I was just hearing people talk about flying cars today. I'm like, I really don't want flying cars, because now we're not even going to be able to look up and have a nice open, clean sky. It's just going to be dystopic everywhere. Gray, chemtrails, flying cars in our face everywhere. It's just like crashing out of the sky, landing on the cars that are still on the ground. It's just like, ugh. Think about every dystopic, futuristic movie. It's always like dirty, smoggy, dark, crowded, dilapidated. It's just like, and so part of me is fearing that it's the death of this. This is that, when I see this picture, everyone has had a beautiful day at like the lake or beach and had that beautiful sunset and just felt that splendor and that like radiance inside. And we have to think about this. We have to hold on to this, because we don't want to lose this, right? We don't want, the beautiful beaches of Thailand are just like overrun with like pounds and pounds, like hundreds, thousands of pounds of garbage. It's like this is what we've done, and so we've seen so much slip away, and we're really preoccupied with it all right now. We're grieving and we're worried, like, what else is going to change, and what else are we going to lose, and what else are we not going to have anymore. And again, this is the death of that old timeline, the old cycles, and not everything that's going away is good, right? Some of the things, that are passing by, it's sad to lose them, and I don't want us to lose them. It's terrifying. They just passed this thing in Tennessee where legislators are going to be held like it'll be a felony if they vote against Trump's plans. So basically there's no vote. It's just dictatorship. It's just you have to agree or you're a felony. You have a felony against you now as a legislative member. So that is that's as disturbing as it gets, really. It just makes you feel trapped in. And you've got this guy here on the Ten of Pentacles, and he's sitting here on this log, and he's thinking about his family and what he's built and the legacy, or maybe what he dreams of building for a family, or maybe he dreams of building a family and what his legacy will be and what he will be giving to that family, what he will leave for future generations. And that's kind of like where we're at. Like, what do we even have to give future generations? You know, what are they going to be born into? If we die and are reincarnated again, oh God, what kind of earth will we be born into? We have to think about what kind of future we're offering to our future children, our current children, the people that we already have here on earth, the future us that may actually have to come back and deal with all this again. And like further down when it's even more futuristic and worse, you know? So we have to take hold of our destiny, right? And we have to save what we have and heal what we have so that it can repair, right? The earth will repair itself if we get out of the way. Our bodies heal themselves when we don't continue to put, harmful things in them, right? If it weren't for the world system throwing us, all of this pollution and toxicity everywhere, and we were living in a more natural way, we'd all be a lot healthier, right? We'd all be a lot more vibrant and thriving. So I think now it's like we have to let go of that old, I want to get mine. I'm in it for me. I want to consume. I want to be greedy. I want to own. I want to have power. Obviously that doesn't work because it leads us to this moment. This is where we're at. We have to start thinking, and that's where part of the death of the old timeline is that mindset of thinking for the self alone, wanting to gain ownership and have power and dominion over everything. The age of Aquarius is about not receiving for the self alone, but thinking about receiving for the sake of sharing with mankind and the unity of humanity and the equality and inventiveness, It would be nice if this was like a renaissance, but unfortunately this advancement in humanity and technology, I feel like is going to the dark side, honestly. Good can come out of it, but there are people that are so corrupt and perverse and powerful now that it's like those characters in like 1960s sci-fi shows where there's like some evil genius or evil like Dr. Evil character who's like got some death ray and they're going to take over the world if they don't get $1 billion. Like literally, or like now it's $1 trillion. That's $100 trillion, or I'm going to like send my death ray. That's where we're at. We're at cartoon tropes from the Jetsons. Like, this is what we've become. So, he's just sitting here like, oh God, where to go from here? Where can you even escape to at this point? So then we have rotatio, right? And when you look at it all and you feel like so overwhelmed, that's exactly what the opponent wants. That's exactly what the world system wants. They want us to feel overwhelmed. But what we have to remember is everything is cyclical. Everything rotates. And every age, people come face to face with their version of like an antichrist moment. And that is the protagonizing and antagonizing factor of that apocalyptic moment that shifts the era, that wakes people up, right? I wondered if COVID would wake people up, if that was enough to shake people awake. It wasn't. That wasn't enough. Lockdown wasn't enough. People didn't have it hard enough. They weren't jolted. They remembered briefly, but then they went back to everything and how it was shortly thereafter. So we're here again, and now a worse case scenario. So it's like, when you have your own personal tests and trials throughout life. When we don't get the picture, the trials start getting harder. The tests start getting more and more grueling, right? The problems start escalating. The volume gets turned up until we finally hear and get the message. So too, it shall be with the collective, right? And so here we are. So don't give up hope that we will never have goodness again, or fun, or harmony. We have to maintain that. We have to make it a choice to keep that going. Otherwise, we're just going to get too distracted and overwhelmed and bogged down and depressed and despondent and futile. And that can only lead to more and more darkness. But we have resilient, creative, brilliant spirits inside of us that are pushing us toward the changes that we need to make, the evolution that we need to come to. And that's why we've got the King of Pentacles here, finding our footing in a very precarious position here. But this king, he looks like a climber, right? He's got it. He's very balanced, even though he's positioned in a very precarious state. It's like he's got his balance. He's in possession of himself. And he can adjust with this deer as it moves. I'm seeing here these coins, and I can't help but think about the gold standard. Our monetary system used to be based on the gold standard. And now inflation is so bad because we moved away from the gold standard in the early 1900s. And so back when we were going by the gold standard, the dollar was backed by gold, and each dollar had a certain amount of gold behind it, which gave it its value. But we've overprinted money, more money than we have gold. And so that's what's causing inflation and economic fragility. So many people for a while have suggested that you should invest in gold because gold will always have value. And even I know we're supposed to be thinking Bitcoin is the future and it's, the big thing, but it's not real. It doesn't have any value. It's just imaginary. So whilst there's a part of me that's I guess I should probably try to start investing in Bitcoin because in case it's the future, but is it? But however, even if we get into intergalactic economics here, other places are going to be wanting elements. That's going to be valuable wherever they're coming and going from too. So if we do end up having freaking extraterrestrial interaction now as a norm, what if we start living a world that's like Star Wars? What if that becomes our reality? Maybe it won't, maybe it will, who knows? But I have a feeling that they'll find gold more valuable than Bitcoin. Just a guess. So I don't know, I just happened to see that, it stood out to me. And you can invest in a gold IRA, right? And I've been interested in finding more out about that as well. So we have the King of Pentacles here. And I just really feel like this is one of those moments where when there is change and upheaval and uncertainty, this is usually where the scrappy folks find their way in and make an opportunity for themselves. And something helps them blow up and explode into this King of Pentacles. So this is that moment right now where your inner King of Pentacles might lead you in a direction that's going to give you good opportunity. At the very least, we need to stay in possession of ourselves and in control and stay on top of our game. Because like we were saying at the beginning of the video, life doesn't stop, right? We still have to pay the rent. We still have to pay the mortgage. We still have dreams. We still have a purpose. We still have things to look forward to. But not if we just throw in the towel and give up, right? So we can't just lay down and rot and wait for it all to pass, or just wait for the world to end, because it might just keep going, right? We may not be in some weird moment where the sky peels back and then all of a sudden, like, the blinds are lifted and now it's heaven. Like, it could be that we're just continuing on this planet. You know, even in the scriptures and the prophecies and all of that, it talks about the final battle, but then it talks about reigning for another 1,000 years. So what if we still have another millennia here on this planet, you know? So plan to be here and be, you know, grounded and on your feet, be pragmatic, be practical. But again, think about that as like we're moving through the Red Sea, and imagine yourself going through this tunnel where we're leaving the past behind and we're going into this new future. And we're becoming a new person, and we're still motivated, and we're still paying attention, and we're still making an effort, and we're not giving up. But this is an opportunity where we can really, I mean, 10 of Pentacles is long-term wealth. It's building something of lasting value rather than throwing in the towel for short-term gratification. So again, be savvy. Think about what you're doing in the short term that might feel like a sacrifice, but it's for your greater good in the future. It's to build something for yourself, to have security, stability, and to create fulfillment that's going to be long lasting, right? Making a legacy for yourself. This isn't just about accumulating your own little goods, like your own little house and inheritance to give away to someone. This is also about the impact that you have on humanity. What kind of impact do you have on individuals, right? Are you sharing your gifts and your talents and at least with the people? You don't have to be on a world stage, but are you having an impact with the people that you meet in your daily life? That makes a difference, and that adds up over time, you know? So making a difference in our own individual communities adds up and spreads out. I mean, think about it. It's overwhelming to think about how I can help and impact the world, or people in the other side of the country or the other side of the world. But if I'm having a great enough impact on the people that I have in my immediate sort of village, so to speak, then, and if all of them are having a positive impact on their circles and villages, and we're all doing this, then it's going to have that domino effect, and that eventually that 100th monkey effect. And if it's the correct term, the Maharishi effect. There's also a term that I think it might be the Maharishi effect, when it means that you will see whatever you're looking for. So if you're looking for evidence that supports your opinion about something, like, you'll see that everywhere. If somebody tells you, if you start dating someone that drives a Jeep, or you have a crush on someone that drives a Jeep, you'll see the Jeep everywhere, kind of thing. So whatever is in your subconscious, you're going to look for it subconsciously, and you're going to see it more everywhere. It's like when people are looking for a sign and they want a sign, and then they start seeing the sign everywhere. It's not really the sign because they're hunting it down, but it's there all the time now that they're aware of it, now that they're looking for it. So I don't know if that's the right term, but one of the terms refers to groups of people meditating and lowering crime rate, having to do with our collective consciousness affecting the greater collective. All right, you all, that is all for tonight. We will be back tomorrow for our weekly romance oracle and tarot message. Until then, y'all be good, but not too good. Ciao.